What if I told you there's a $30,000 SUV that laughs at potholes, mocks breakdowns, and has owners bragging about hitting 300,000 miles like it's nothing? While your neighbor's luxury SUV is on its third transmission, these 5 bulletproof beasts are just getting warmed up. Some people say you can't buy reliability cheap anymore. Those people are wrong. Today, we're counting down 5 affordable SUVs that are built so tough they make Nokia phones jealous. These aren't your delicate mall crawlers. These are the cockroaches of the automotive world, and I mean that as the highest compliment. Stick around to number 1 because that SUV has a cult following that would make Apple users look casual. Let's roll.
All right, kicking things off at number 5, we have the Mitsubishi Montero. And before you scroll past thinking this is just another forgotten Japanese SUV, let me hit you with something wild. There are Monteros in the Middle East and Australia with over 500,000 miles on the original engine. 500,000! That's like driving to the moon twice and still having enough left over for a Costco run. Now, here's the thing about the Montero that nobody tells you. While everyone was busy drooling over Land Cruisers and arguing about Jeep reliability on internet forums, Mitsubishi quietly built what is possibly the most over-engineered SUV that nobody appreciated. This thing was designed for the Paris-Dakar Rally, which, if you don't know, is basically automotive gladiator combat across thousands of miles of the most unforgiving terrain on Earth. Mitsubishi didn't just participate, they dominated it. 12 overall victories. The Montero wasn't born in a corporate boardroom, it was forged in the fires of competitive suffering. But let's talk about what makes this beast actually reliable in the real world, because rally credentials are cool, but you need something that starts every morning, right? The Montero came with Mitsubishi's legendary 3.5-liter or 3.8-liter V6 engines, depending on the year, and these power plants are about as complicated as a hammer. They're simple, they're robust, and they just refuse to die. We're talking timing chains instead of belts on most models, which means one less thing to catastrophically fail if you forget about maintenance. And the transmission? A 5-speed automatic that's smooth as butter and built like it's meant to outlive your mortgage. Here's where it gets even better. The Montero uses a proper body-on-frame construction with a fully independent suspension, which sounds fancy, but what it really means is this thing rides like a luxury car, but has the structural integrity of a bank vault. You get the comfort without sacrificing the toughness. It's like having a golden retriever that can also bench press a Volkswagen. Now, I know what you're thinking. If this thing is so amazing, why don't I see them everywhere? Great question. Here's the brutal truth. Mitsubishi's marketing in North America was about as effective as a chocolate teapot. They pulled out of entire markets, left dealerships hanging, and basically ghosted their own customers. But here's the plot twist. That actually works in your favor now. Because these SUVs are criminally undervalued. You can pick up a clean, well-maintained Montero for a fraction of what you'd pay for a comparable 4Runner or Land Cruiser. We're talking $5,000 to $15,000 for something that'll genuinely last decades if you treat it right. The ownership experience is where the Montero really shines through. Talk to any Montero owner and they'll tell you the same story. Routine maintenance, maybe a couple sensors here and there, but nothing catastrophic. The rust protection is surprisingly solid for a vehicle of its era, and parts availability, while not Toyota level, is still completely manageable thanks to a dedicated community and the fact that these mechanical components are proven workhorses. And let's address the elephant in the room, fuel economy. Yeah, it's not winning any Eco-Warrior awards. You're looking at mid-teens in the city, maybe low 20s on the highway if you're gentle. But here's my counterpoint. If you're buying a vehicle that lasts 300,000 miles, you're not exactly hurting the environment by buying something new every 5 years, are you? Sometimes the most sustainable choice is the one that simply refuses to quit. One more thing that makes the Montero absolutely brilliant. It's one of those rare vehicles that's genuinely capable off-road, but won't punish you on your daily commute. The Super Select 4-wheel drive system is properly engineered, giving you 2-wheel drive for efficiency, 4-wheel high for sketchy conditions, and 4-wheel low when things get properly gnarly. And you can shift between some of these modes on the fly. It's the automotive equivalent of a Swiss Army knife, except this knife weighs 5,000 pounds and can climb a mountain. So there you have it, the Mitsubishi Montero. Undervalued, over-engineered, and ready to outlast your cynicism about used cars. It's the SUV equivalent of that quiet kid in class who turns out to be an absolute genius. While everyone's fighting over Toyotas and paying premium prices, you could be cruising in rally-bred reliability that costs less than a year of car payments on something new and decidedly more fragile. But wait, because we're just getting started with these indestructible machines.
Coming in at number 4, we've got the Toyota RAV4. And I can already hear some of you saying, wait, the RAV4? That soccer mom SUV? Oh, you sweet summer child. Let me tell you about the automotive equivalent of a honey badger in a suburban disguise. This thing doesn't care about your opinions. It just keeps running. Here's a stat that'll blow your mind. The RAV4 has consistently ranked as one of the most reliable vehicles sold in the last 3 decades, with owners routinely crossing the 200,000-mile mark without breaking a sweat. Consumer Reports literally had to create new testing categories because RAV4s kept scoring off their charts. It's like watching someone ace a test so hard the teacher has to rewrite the answer key. Now, let's rewind the clock a bit, because the RAV4's origin story is actually fascinating. When Toyota launched this thing back in the mid-90s, they basically invented the modern compact crossover segment. Everyone laughed at them. Who wants a small SUV, they said. It's not a real truck, they mocked. Fast forward to today, and literally every manufacturer on the planet is desperately trying to build their own RAV4 competitor because Toyota saw the future while everyone else was still arguing about ground clearance. But here's what makes the RAV4 genuinely bulletproof and why you see so many of them still crawling around with dented bumpers and faded paint, but running like Swiss watches. Toyota engineered these with the philosophy they call over-quality, which is corporate speak for, we built this thing way tougher than it needs to be because our reputation depends on it. The engines, whether you're looking at the earlier 4-cylinders or the legendary 2.5-liter inline-4 in newer models, are so conservatively tuned that they're basically idling even when you're at highway speeds. These motors live in permanent vacation mode. The secret sauce? Toyota's obsessive attention to the boring stuff that nobody talks about in commercials. We're talking about rust-proofing that actually works, wiring harnesses that don't turn into electrical spaghetti after 5 years, and gaskets that seal properly instead of weeping oil all over your driveway like some European luxury cars I could mention. The RAV4 doesn't have the flash, it has something better, competence that borders on supernatural. And let's talk about the transmission situation, because this is where Toyota really flexed their engineering muscles. Most RAV4s come with either a bulletproof automatic or, if you're lucky enough to snag an older model, a manual transmission that's smoother than a jazz saxophonist. But the real party trick? Toyota's all-wheel drive system is beautifully simple, which in engineering terms means there's less stuff to catastrophically explode. It's not trying to be a rock crawler or a drift machine. It just quietly sends power where it needs to go without any drama whatsoever. Now here's where the RAV4 gets really interesting from a value perspective. Because they sold approximately 7 billion of these things, the used market is absolutely flooded with options. But here's the catch. People know these are reliable, so they hold their value like gold bullion. You'll pay more for a RAV4 than something more exotic, but you're essentially buying insurance against being stranded. Think of it as paying a premium for peace of mind, except this peace of mind has 4 wheels and a luggage rack. The maintenance story is where RAV4 owners start sounding like they've joined a cult. Oil changes, tire rotations, brake pads when needed, and that's genuinely about it for the first 100,000 miles. The horror stories are so rare that when a RAV4 actually breaks down in a significant way, it makes the owner forums because everyone's genuinely shocked. It's like seeing a unicorn, except the unicorn is a failed water pump. And here's something nobody tells you about RAV4s. They're phenomenally practical in ways that don't photograph well for Instagram, but make your actual life easier. The cargo space is cleverly designed. The rear seats fold flat without requiring an engineering degree, and the turning radius is tight enough to make parking lot navigation feel like you're driving a go-kart. It's not sexy, but neither is changing a flat tire in the rain. And guess what? You probably won't have to do that in a RAV4. Let's address the obvious criticism. Yes, driving a RAV4 has the emotional appeal of eating plain oatmeal. It's not going to make your heart race or turn heads at a car meet. But you know what? Sometimes the smartest choice isn't the exciting one. It's the one that starts every single morning, hauls your stuff without complaining, and still has resale value when you're finally ready to move on. The RAV4 is the friend who helps you move, shows up on time, and never asks for gas money. So there you have it, the Toyota RAV4. Boring, dependable, and so tough that it's basically automotive cockroach behavior in the best possible way. While everyone else is chasing thrills and paying for repairs, RAV4 owners are quietly racking up miles and smiling at their bank account balance. But hold on, because the next SUV on our list takes reliability to an almost suspicious level.
Sliding into the number 3 spot, we have the Honda CR-V. And if you just rolled your eyes thinking this is another boring choice, buckle up, because I'm about to tell you why mechanics genuinely hate this vehicle. Not because it's bad, but because CR-V owners almost never come back. There are Honda technicians out there who've seen the same CR-V roll in for oil changes for 15 years straight with zero, and I mean zero, actual problems. That's not a car, that's a subscription service to disappointment-free motoring. Here's something wild that'll put this into perspective. There's documented evidence of CR-Vs hitting 400,000 miles on the original engine and transmission. 400,000! That's circling the Earth 16 times, or driving from New York to Los Angeles 140 times. At that point, you're not maintaining a vehicle, you're curating a relationship. The CR-V's story starts in the late 90s when Honda looked at the RAV4 and said, "Hold my Saki, we can do this better." And honestly, they might have been right. Honda took everything they learned from building the world's most reliable motorcycles and civic economy cars, then asked themselves a simple question. What if we made an SUV that drives like a car but has the dependability of a commercial generator? The answer was basically automotive perfection wrapped in a slightly awkward body shape. Now, let's get into the mechanical wizardry that makes the CR-V basically unkillable. Honda's K-Series engines are the stuff of legend in engineering circles. These 4-cylinder power plants are so well balanced and efficiently designed that they genuinely seem confused by the concept of wearing out. We're talking about engines that sip fuel like a hummingbird, but have internal components machined to tolerances that would make a Swiss watchmaker weep with joy. The connecting rods, the pistons, the crankshaft, everything is built like Honda expects you to pass this vehicle down to your grandchildren. But here's where it gets really interesting, and this is something most people completely miss. Honda engineered the CR-V with what I call intelligent laziness. Every system in this vehicle is designed to do its job with the absolute minimum of fuss and complexity. The all-wheel drive system? It's essentially a smart clutch pack that engages automatically when needed and disappears when it's not. No transfer cases to service, no complex differential locks to fail, just simple hydraulic pressure doing simple work. It's genius disguised as boring. The transmission deserves its own standing ovation because Honda automatics in the CR-V are smoother than butter on a hot skillet. Earlier models came with 5 speeds that were basically indestructible, and the newer CVT transmissions, which normally have the reliability of a chocolate fire guard, are actually well executed in the CR-V because Honda over-engineered them to compensate for the inherent weaknesses of CVT technology. They knew the reputation risk and built accordingly. Now let's talk about something that doesn't get enough credit, the CR-V's suspension and chassis setup. This thing rides comfortably enough for your grandmother's book club, but handles bumps and rough roads like it's personally offended by the concept of harsh impacts. The secret? Honda used a clever multi-link rear suspension on most models that absorbs road imperfections while maintaining stability. It's not going to win any racing championships, but it'll commute through pothole-riddled city streets for 2 decades without developing squeaks, rattles, or that haunting clunking noise that makes you question all your life choices.
Here's the part where CR-V ownership gets really compelling from a financial standpoint. These vehicles depreciate slower than basically anything except precious metals. You'll pay fair market value buying used, but here's the beautiful part. You'll get most of that money back when you sell it because the next buyer knows exactly what they're getting. It's like buying stocks that only go up, except this stock hauls your camping gear and doesn't judge your road trip snack choices. The maintenance schedule reads like a haiku about simplicity. Change the oil every 7,000 miles or so, rotate the tires, replace the air filter when it looks sad, and congratulations, you've just completed advanced CR-V maintenance. There are no timing belts to catastrophically snap on most models because Honda wisely used timing chains. The brakes last forever because the regenerative systems on newer models do half the work. Even the interior materials are designed to withstand the apocalypse, or at least several teenagers with questionable hygiene habits. And here's my favorite thing about CR-V owners. They're boringly satisfied. You never hear dramatic stories about their vehicles because nothing dramatic happens. The most exciting CR-V owner tale is usually something like, "Yeah, I had to replace the battery after 8 years." That's it. That's the whole thriller novel right there. Let's be honest about the downsides though, because nothing's perfect. The CR-V won't make anyone think you're interesting at parties. It has the aesthetic appeal of a refrigerator box on wheels. The performance is adequate in the way that room temperature water is adequate. But you know what? When you're driving past broken down luxury SUVs on the highway while your CR-V hums along on its way to its third 100,000 miles, suddenly boring starts feeling pretty smart. So there you have it, the Honda CR-V, relentlessly dependable, shockingly durable, and so reliable that it's actually become invisible because reliability isn't dramatic. While other SUV owners are Googling transmission repair costs, CR-V drivers are planning their next road trip and wondering what all the fuss is about. But we're not done yet because the next two SUVs are where things get properly legendary.
Cruising into the number 2 spot, we've got the Subaru Crosstrek. And I need you to forget everything you think you know about small SUVs, because this little overachiever is about to blow your mind. Picture this. There are Crosstreks out there with over 250,000 miles that have never seen the inside of a repair shop for anything beyond routine maintenance. And here's the kicker. Most of them are still on their original clutch if they're manual. That's not just reliability, that's borderline witchcraft. Here's something that'll make you respect this funky-looking little wagon. The Crosstrek has one of the highest owner loyalty rates in the entire automotive industry. We're talking about people who finish paying off their Crosstrek and immediately go buy another one. That's not brand loyalty, that's a love affair. When was the last time you heard someone say, "Yeah, I loved my first toaster so much I bought the exact same model again"? Never, because toasters don't have symmetrical all-wheel drive and boxer engines. Now let's talk about what makes the Crosstrek genuinely special, because this is where Subaru's engineering philosophy gets absolutely fascinating. While every other manufacturer was busy figuring out how to make front-wheel drive crossovers that could occasionally send some power to the rear wheels, Subaru looked at that approach and said, "Nah, we're putting proper all-wheel drive in everything all the time." The Crosstrek doesn't have an all-wheel drive button because it doesn't need one. It's always engaged, always working, always ready to embarrass much larger SUVs in snow, mud, or whatever sketchy situation you've gotten yourself into. The heart of this machine is Subaru's legendary boxer engine, and if you don't know what that means, prepare for a quick lesson in mechanical brilliance. Unlike normal engines where the pistons go up and down like they're doing jumping jacks, boxer engines have horizontally opposed pistons that punch outward like, well, boxers. This creates a lower center of gravity, better balance, and an engine that vibrates less than your phone on silent mode. It's so smooth that you could balance a coin on the engine block while it's running, and engineers have literally done this as a party trick. But here's where the Crosstrek really earns its legendary status: ground clearance. At 8.7 inches, this thing sits higher than vehicles twice its size and price. I've seen Crosstreks navigate trails that would make a Jeep owner nervous, and they do it while returning decent fuel economy and fitting in a compact parking space. It's like having a mountain goat that also commutes to your office job and doesn't require special food. The build quality is where Subaru flexes their Japanese manufacturing excellence. These vehicles are assembled with a precision that borders on obsessive. The body panels line up like they were laser-guided. The doors close with a satisfying thunk that screams quality. And the paint holds up to rock chips and weather abuse better than vehicles costing 3 times as much. Subaru knows their customers actually use these things outdoors, so they built them accordingly. It's designed for real life, not just looking pretty in a dealership showroom. Let's address the famous Subaru reliability factor, because this is where things get interesting. Yes, older Subarus had some head gasket issues that became internet legend, but here's what nobody tells you. Subaru actually fixed that problem over a decade ago, and the modern Crosstrek engines are bulletproof. We're talking about powertrains that thrive on neglect, transmissions that shift smoothly whether you chose the CVT or the 6-speed manual, and all-wheel drive systems that operate in silent efficiency for hundreds of thousands of miles. The horror stories are ancient history, but the reputation for adventure readiness, that's forever. Now here's something that makes the Crosstrek absolutely brilliant from a value perspective. It holds its resale value like it's coated in financial armor. 3-year-old Crosstreks sell for percentages of their original price that would make luxury car owners weep into their depreciation statements. You're essentially renting this vehicle from future you at incredibly reasonable rates, and future you is going to thank present you for making such a smart decision. The practicality factor is where the Crosstrek really shines in everyday life. The cargo area is deceptively spacious. The rear seats fold flat to create a surprisingly comfortable camping setup, and there are more storage cubbies and clever compartments than you'll ever actually use. Subaru designed this thing for people who actually live in their vehicles on weekends, and it shows. Plus, the roof rails are standard, which means you can haul kayaks, bikes, or an embarrassing amount of lumber from the hardware store without thinking twice. Here's my favorite part about Crosstrek ownership: the community. Subaru owners are genuinely some of the friendliest people you'll meet, and they wave at each other like they're part of a secret society, because honestly, they kind of are. They're the society of people who figured out that you don't need a $40,000 vehicle to go anywhere you want, do anything you need, and have it start reliably every single morning. The maintenance story is refreshingly simple. Oil changes with synthetic, which you should absolutely use, air filters, and maybe some brake pads eventually. The CVT transmission fluid should be changed according to schedule, not the lifetime fluid nonsense some manufacturers claim, and you'll be rewarded with endless reliability. Treat it with basic mechanical respect, and the Crosstrek will outlast your expectations, your loan, and probably your interest in whatever new SUV commercials are trying to sell you. So there it is, the Subaru Crosstrek. Small in size, massive in capability, and built with a level of engineering integrity that makes it nearly impossible to kill. While others are buying bigger, flashier, more expensive SUVs that'll depreciate faster than ice cream melts in August, Crosstrek owners are quietly exploring back roads, saving money, and smiling at the gas pump. But hold your excitement, because we've saved the absolute king of indestructible SUVs for last. And trust me, you already know it is.
And finally, claiming the #1 spot for indestructible toughness, we have the Suzuki Grand Vitara. Wait, what? Yeah, I saw that look. You were expecting a 4Runner or a Land Cruiser, weren't you? But here's the thing. While everyone's fighting over Toyotas and paying absurd prices for the privilege, there's this forgotten Japanese warrior that's been quietly outlasting them all at a fraction of the cost, and almost nobody's talking about it. Let me hit you with something absolutely mind-blowing. There are Grand Vitaras still running in the Australian outback, the African bush, and South American jungles with over 350,000 miles on them. And the only reason they stopped counting is because the odometers gave up before the engines did. These things are out there right now, covered in dust, held together by determination and maybe some duct tape, still refusing to die. That's not a vehicle, that's a lifestyle statement written in motor oil and pure stubbornness. Here's the dirty secret that automotive journalists won't tell you because it doesn't sell magazines. The Suzuki Grand Vitara is built on a proper ladder frame chassis, just like the legendary Land Cruiser, just like old-school Jeeps, and just like trucks that cost 3 times as much. While everyone else was switching to unibody construction to save weight and money, Suzuki looked at that trend and said, nah, we're building this thing like it's going to war. And guess what? In many parts of the world, it literally did. Aid organizations, park rangers, and remote workers have been relying on Grand Vitaras for decades because when you're 4 hours from the nearest town, you need something that starts, not something that looks good on Instagram. The engine story is where this gets beautifully simple. Suzuki's approach to powertrains is refreshingly old school. Make it simple, make it tough, make it fixable with basic tools. The 4-cylinder engines, whether you're looking at the 2.0-liter or the 2.4-liter variants, are about as complicated as a lawnmower and just as reliable. There's no fancy variable valve timing that breaks, no direct injection system with carbon buildup nightmares, just straightforward port injection and proven technology that's been working since your parents were young. It's mechanical minimalism at its finest, and minimalism means fewer things to catastrophically fail at the worst possible moment. But here's where the Grand Vitara truly separates itself from pretenders. It has proper low-range 4-wheel drive with a 2-speed transfer case. Do you understand what that means? It means this affordable little SUV has the same fundamental off-road capability as vehicles costing $50,000 or more. You got high range for normal driving, low range for serious terrain, and the mechanical connection between the engine and wheels that gives you actual control instead of relying on computers making decisions for you. It's pure, unfiltered capability that doesn't require a software update. The build quality is where Suzuki's motorcycle heritage really shines through. These vehicles are assembled with Japanese precision, but designed with global toughness in mind. The suspension components are overbuilt, the drivetrain is robust, and the chassis can handle abuse that would twist unibody crossovers into modern art installations. I've seen Grand Vitaras with bent bumpers, scratched paint, and mismatched body panels still driving around like nothing happened, because the important bits underneath are simply indestructible. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Suzuki pulled out of certain markets, which means dealership support evaporated faster than your motivation on a Monday morning. But here's the plot twist that makes this even better. The Grand Vitara shares components with other Suzuki vehicles that are still sold globally, and the aftermarket support is actually phenomenal once you know where to look. Plus, the mechanical simplicity means that any competent mechanic can work on these things without specialized diagnostic equipment that costs more than the vehicle itself. It's the anti-modern car, and that's precisely why it's so reliable. The ownership experience is where Grand Vitara owners become evangelical. These aren't people who bought a vehicle. These are people who discovered a secret. They're paying used Corolla prices for something that'll go places a Land Cruiser goes. They're getting fuel economy that's surprisingly reasonable given the capability, and they're doing it all while everyone else is stuck in financing agreements that make student loans look affordable. The Grand Vitara represents automotive freedom in its purest form. Cheap to buy, cheap to run, impossible to break, and ready for whatever adventure you can dream up. Here's something that really drives home the Grand Vitara's legendary status. It's genuinely hard to find a bad one. Because the people who buy these tend to actually maintain them, and because the vehicles themselves are so mechanically sound, most used Grand Vitaras on the market are still solid. You're not buying someone's problem, you're buying someone's trusted companion that they're only selling because life circumstances changed. That's the kind of reputation money can't buy and marketing departments dream about. The maintenance schedule reads like a greatest hits of stuff you can actually do yourself. Oil changes, filter replacements, grease some fittings, check the transfer case fluid, and you're done. There's no timing belts waiting to snap and destroy your engine, no complicated emission systems that require dealer-only repairs, no subscription services for basic features. The Grand Vitara is from an era when vehicles were designed to be owned, not leased, and that philosophy shows in every bolt and bearing. Let's be brutally honest about the compromises, because nothing's perfect, even our champion. The interior feels like it was designed by engineers who thought cup holders were optional luxuries. The ride quality is firm because it's built on a truck chassis. The technology features are basic at best, prehistoric at worst. But you know what? When you're the person still driving while everyone else is waiting for a tow truck, suddenly heated seats don't seem so important anymore. So there you have it, the Suzuki Grand Vitara, the underdog that beat them all, the forgotten warrior that kept fighting, and the smartest buy in the entire affordable SUV segment if you value capability and reliability over brand prestige and modern gadgets. While the automotive world chases electric futures and autonomous dreams, the Grand Vitara represents something beautifully simple, a machine that does exactly what it promises, costs less than you'd believe, and refuses to quit until the heat death of the universe.
And that's our list of 5 affordable SUVs that are built so tough they make Nokia phones look fragile. From the rally-bred Mitsubishi Montero to the criminally underrated Suzuki Grand Vitara, these machines prove that reliability doesn't require a luxury badge or a massive price tag. It just requires smart engineering and a commitment to building things right. Now, here's what I need you to do. If you found this video helpful, smash that like button so more people can discover these legendary vehicles before the secret gets out and prices go crazy. Drop a comment below telling me which one of these 5 you'd choose and why, because I genuinely want to know. Are you Team Rally Heritage with the Montero? Team Proven Dependability with the RAV4 or CR-V? Team Adventure Ready with the Crosstrek? Or are you joining me in the Suzuki Grand Vitara Appreciation Society? And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we're diving deep into automotive truths that the mainstream won't tell you. We've got more reliable beasts, hidden gems, and money-saving secrets coming your way. Until next time, drive something tough, buy something smart, and remember, the best SUV is the one that's still running when everyone else is Googling transmission repair near me. See you in the next one.